All right, everybody, welcome into your Tuesday night therapy session with your favorite Purdue sports fans. We're here to talk you off the ledges. We're here to set y'all straight. We are brought to you by Martin Vintage. Go check them out. Check out their cool retro shirts. You've seen some of them in our pods. I don't think any of us are wearing them tonight, but they got a lot of cool shirts on there from old bowl games, old logos, old Purdue Pete's that you can check out. And use the code BXP at checkout for 10% off. Also, go check out CBB Analytics for everything stats. Go check them out. And oh yes, I was like, "What's going on, Frank? What do you need?" But yeah, check out CBB Analytics. You can get a free membership to check out Purdue stats, see how our players are doing, where they rank in the country, or you can upgrade to a Premier membership like they've hooked us up with, and you can check out all things Big Ten, all things nationwide. Also, check out Cincy Blitzboards. Go see at Cincy Blitzboards on Twitter. Go check them out. They'll set you up with a cool board. As you can see behind me, Dylan is out of town, so he doesn't have his. He has a kayak back there. So.
Yeah, that's my shout out to Uncle Vern for letting me use his garage to record the podcast today.
There you go.
So
Hey, they could put a kayak on a Blitzboard. So if you
and
want
then there's a punching bag that I made just like once in a while. Take my anger out on Ohio State.
So, yeah.
You can use that when we're talking about certain fans or reactions. You can just use the punching bag to take your anger out on
good
it.
Idea, eh? That's a good one.
Hey, I try. So, yeah, so kind of a rough week, depending on who you talk to. We got it done against Minnesota. Didn't get it done on Sunday at Ohio State. But what are y'all thinking? How y'all feeling?
I don't know. I feel like my thoughts are better than the thoughts of a lot of people I've seen who maybe post a little too much on social media. I don't know. I feel good. I think that I guess we can start with Minnesota. To be I forget how much exactly Purdue was down at halftime. Wasn't double digits though, but
I thought it was
close
11.
to it. Maybe it was it? Yeah. I know we were down 11 at one point. I've watched so much film the last few days. I don't remember, but to have a sizable deficit, a noticeable deficit at halftime, and then to come out and see the huge adjustments which took place on the offensive end and the defensive end, I thought that was pretty cool. For those who think or have been saying that a lot lately that the adjustments aren't there or Painter can't adjust or whatnot. I think we saw some great adjustments in that game. We shut down Cam Christie in the second half. In the first half, he really tore us up, as did Mitchell. Neither one of them scored in the second half. It was really impressive. And welcoming in Damon.
This hasn't happened in a long time.
Yes.
What's up, Damon? My goodness.
Damon, thanks for being here, man. We appreciate it.
Let's go.
Yes, sir. Sorry, I was on the forums starting my Fire Matt Painter campaign.
And we're down to 4 members of the Boiler Sports Podcast.
Damon's also already up to 1,100 signatures. So,
yeah, let's talk about our poll for a second. And then Damon, I do want to get your thoughts. Having been at the Minnesota game, but
okay.
After the game, we posted, who of these 4 players, who was most impactful in, helping secure that win. And the options were Trey Kaufman-Renn, Mason Gillis, Ethan Morton, Caleb Furst. And I was honestly really surprised that Ethan Morton won by a landslide. My personal vote was Caleb Furst. I thought he gave huge minutes when Edey was out. You can make a case, with all 4 guys. TKR was huge in that game. Mason Gillis obviously went off from 3, added another dimension to our offense. But I was really surprised to see Ethan Morton up there. It seems like he's a very polarizing figure among the Purdue fan base. But what do you all think about that?
I think that poor Ethan Morton, because he's like the guy that can just he can't do anything right, because when he's just the guy that like everybody loves him when he's doing what he is like when basically it all depends on if Purdue's winning or not. If he's a shut down, lockdown defender and Purdue comes out with the win, it's like, oh, Ethan Morton was so integral to that win. He did so great, blah, blah, blah. Purdue's on the losing end. Nobody ever talks about Ethan Morton's defense. It's like, oh, he should have done more. He shouldn't have been in there. They needed more offense. So like the poor guy can't do anything right.
Yeah. So
sorry.
Oh, okay. We all right, Chris? What's going on?
Right. Yeah. Creighton just nearly hit a half-court shot for to take the lead 29-23 over UConn. Sorry, I got a little excited.
Okay.
Yeah, you just freaked out over a half court shot, and the score's 29-23.
Yeah, how was that for the lead too? Is it 6 points for a half court shot now, or?
I mean, a half court shot's a half court shot. Lance Jones almost hit another one against Ohio State.
That's
I mean,
true.
it grazed the rim. It was crazy. Anyway,
Sorry, I'll just go back to shutting up.
Russ,
Morton.
what were you saying?
Yeah, so I've defended Ethan Morton a lot too. I don't know if I'm up there with you, Frank, on my defense of him and of the Grady Eifert types, the glue guy types, the guys that aren't necessarily offensive threats, but they're defensive, shutdown guys. But in today's era where you can just keep screening them off, like I used to use that as a defense and say, look, Ethan Morton's obviously an elite defender, or the other team wouldn't continue to screen and screen and screen to get him off the guy that they want to have the ball. But at the same time, that's what you can do. The other team can quickly mitigate that. And so now we've got Fletcher or Braden or somebody else that isn't necessarily a bad defender, but it's the defender they want now. And it's taken away the strength that Ethan Morton has that's supposed to help our team. And then we get to offense and they're lagging off of him. Like, I said in the chat, like you're playing open gym ball and the dude, can't hit it from further out than a layup. You're just like, leave him. He's good. He ain't going to hit it. And you can't do that in Division I college basketball. And I get that he's former Mr. Basketball. He shot 40% at some point, but you could see in Ohio State, he clearly was like, it was like he was told he's not allowed to shoot the ball almost the way that he kept passing it away. So like at some point, I think we've got to get away from that. Now, Painter's always had that deal where he has one or two options and then everybody else has to get their own shot. So when you have one or two options, it's going to dominate the play calls, dominate the looks. You're going to have a guy on the court that isn't going to get a whole lot of looks, but you've got to have every guy on the court that if he is left open can hit a shot.
Yeah. And I, just to address the elephant in the room here, what happened, right? Like I went back, I've been watching a lot of old Purdue film, breaking down different types of plays that we run in the past, just because it's what I like to do in my free time. And I've found a ton of footage of actions being run and guys finding Ethan Morton wide open in a corner and he drains a three. And it's been interesting for me because I forgot that used to happen. That used to be something that was a viable scoring option. And Russ, you are correct in that it seems almost like he is being told you're not shooting anymore. And I was at the Xavier game. He hit a couple of huge shots in that game to help keep Xavier at arm's length, as did Miles Colvin. And I don't know what's going on there, but to put some numbers to this defensively with Ethan Morton, when he's not on the court, Purdue their opponents average right at 1 point per possession, and that's down to 96.9 when he's on the court. So there is a gap in defense there. Our defense does get better when he's on the court. There's a net loss though. Purdue's net rating goes down slightly, 1.8. Points per 100 possessions when he's off the court, but he does have the ability to come in and change the dynamic of the game. I think that you can't quantify. But I don't know. I don't know where I sit today. In terms of how I feel about Ethan Morton, but it was extremely surprising for me to see him being voted the number one, the most impactful player in that game. But about that game in general, Damon, you were there. Can you kind of talk about what the atmosphere was like? It sounded pretty rowdy on TV. It sounded like Mackey was rocking, but
Damon was so worried that he was going to curse Purdue. He was so scared that he was going to be the reason.
I did. What do you mean? They lost to Ohio State. I've done it.
No, I'm talking at the Minnesota game.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, I definitely had a few drinks there at the beginning, and was really, man, when they played that, like the hype video before the game started, I was ready to get down there. At one point in time, I yelled, teach these guys why they play at Minnesota and not Purdue. But no, it was really fun. The atmosphere was great. We were packed in there like sardines, and I'm a bigger guy, so I was literally holding my drinks like this.
When those stadiums were built, they weren't built for guys like us, Damon.
They weren't. No, it's a shame. But overall, though, I mean, they started out hot. Went on a run there, and then it kind of got away from them. And I think I even texted you like, "What's going on? Like, what?" There's like 3 or 4 possessions in a row where there were like turnovers or something. And there was like 3 or 4 possessions in a row, I think, where there was, and you said that they were blitzing. It was something to do with like Lance wasn't in there and they were blitzing something. I don't know. It's a big Frank.
Yeah,
word.
there was a weird lineup, but yeah, they were Lance was in there and they were blitzing ball screens, and he's not nearly as calm and relaxed off of a blitz or a double team as Braden is. So there were a few possessions. I remember that because I think you asked specifically like what are they doing differently because we look off, but he put Braden back in and all was right there.
My simple mind is thinking about that Bama dude. Blitz, Bama, blitz. Blitz, Boilers, blitz.
No, when you say that, you can't have any teeth, and you got to scream it to the top of your lungs.
Blitz, Boilers, blitz.
You're only a few years away from that, Russ, so you may be able to
have a banjo.
Instead of that being water you're drinking, then needs to be you spitting some chew into that thing. But no, atmosphere was great. I think that the crowd really helped propel the team with that run at the beginning of the second half. That was really cool to see, and the guys just lock in, and even more so now, appreciating it more after hearing like Coach Painter's halftime speech, which like fired us all up. But yeah, I mean, it was a great atmosphere. They got close there for a second. Cam Christie just wouldn't stop hitting every shot. But I think going back to Ethan Morton, when he came in there, he shut Cam Christie down in the second half there for a good while. So he definitely did his part. And, it was just Purdue basketball. It was gritty. It was strong defense. And it was a fun game to watch.
And one thing I'd like to touch on from that game in particular was the way that Painter used Ethan Morton. I thought I'm sorry, not Ethan Morton. We've been talking about Ethan Morton so much. The way Painter used Mason Gillis was so cool. We ran so many actions to get him a shot because Purdue needed to get something going from the perimeter, and it was Miles Colvin who came in and hit an early shot that kind of started things off. And then we ran some really cool horns twist actions for Mason Gillis. Then we started faking the horns twist to reject that initial screen because the defense was double teaming it, which basically left him wide open at the top. And then we started using the gravity that we created to get Edey some one-on-one looks. It was just a brilliant offensive game plan from PJ Thompson. Actually, I'm not even going to credit that one to Painter. We got a comment here from OHIO. Is Dylan wearing flop flops or cowboy boots? I assume that was supposed to be.
That's what we call them here in Ohio. Although I'm in Florida, and I know not a sponsor, but Hey Dudes.
Hey Dudes. Oh my God, Hey Dudes are the best.
I know. I didn't wear them until recently, and I texted you guys when I bought them. I was like, do you guys mess with Hey Dudes?
Yeah, I've got like 7 pair of Hey Dudes.
This is my own. And when you pack them to go on trips, easy to pack in a suitcase.
Yeah,
I got to give the OHIO guys props for not coming in here and rubbing it in their faces, so
mouth.
Or commenting.
I'm not
on
saying
my shirt.
they won't.
I'm not saying they won't
before they leave, but
I picked a bad shirt to wear tonight. I'm not gonna lie.
Hey Dudes are the bomb.
No, it's a Columbus Crew, not.
It's black and gold, black and yellow, whatever.
Yeah, black and gold, black and yellow. Then you have to argue which gold is the right gold because Vanderbilt, their basketball team's wearing a gold, and Purdue fans are having a shit fit over it.
I do like their gold. I'm not.
It is a superior gold for
It's
sure.
nice. But another thing I wanted to talk about in that game was Purdue's ability to attack their drop coverage. We just seemed to really get in and take advantage of that mid-range shot. Braden had a feasting day on that one. He hit his points, rebounds, assists over for those who like to place that bet. I know that's been a popular one on Twitter lately. So for those of you who took that, you hit that. Cam Christie went off in the first half. Dawson Garcia went off in the second half. So it was really a tale of two halves as far as Minnesota's offense is concerned. Last thing I had to talk about was the fouls. Painter's not one to really criticize officiating too much, but in his recent episode of the Painter Show, I'm not sure if you all heard it. He called out the officiating in the last 2 games specifically.
Really?
Yeah, he said that in the Minnesota game, Zach got some really, really bad calls. It was one where the defender jumped straight into him, and he said by definition it violates like what the defender, the offensive player jumped into him. By definition of these new block charge rule, like it violated the rule. And he was like, so there's like I asked for an explanation. I didn't get one. And Dawson Garcia dove into Gillis. They called it a block. Fletcher Lawyer tripped somebody after being pushed to the ground, and they called a foul on Fletcher Lawyer. I'm not going to sit here and say like the officiating made that game difficult or that officiating affected the outcome of that game. But I mean, I think it was Dawson Garcia who like bumps into Fletcher, like extends his arms, pushes him down, and then trips over his feet. Like, and there's a foul on Fletch. Yeah. I don't know. It was an interestingly officiated game, but Purdue won that game and they didn't shoot very well from the free throw line, and we'll get to the opposite end of that here in just a second. But I do want to address this comment here from the OHIO boys. No trash talking here. We have an interim coach boost. If we run into you guys in the Big Ten tournament, my money's on the Boilers. Eric, interesting story. Actually, sat next to your coach, your current coach, on a plane about a year and a half ago. So I
remember you bringing that up.
Yeah, he was head to toe in Ohio State gear, and I'm like, I bet this guy is somehow associated with Ohio State. So like before we took off, I was just scrolling through like coaches. I'm like, oh, there he is. So
it's just like how Dylan does social media for the Purdue hockey team.
Yeah. Some kid. Do you work for him? Sure, why not? But yeah.
Let me have a comment. A second Buckeye win over Purdue would knock my flop-flops off. Yeah.
Hey, Eric,
you need all the NIT builders you can get.
Hey, Eric, this is you. Ready?
Whoa.
I'm going to have to give you some boxing lessons.
Dylan's loving that. Dylan's loving that.
I really am.
Back.
But I have a couple questions about
slap fight, the slap contest. You see, that's what.
Oh God.
Damon, go ahead. What are your questions?
I have some questions or thoughts on the officiating too, and why? Because after the game, like I was on social media, and the opposing fan outrage on the foul where Edey like ran into the center, or like was basically the guy fell to the ground, and Edey was like already moving forward and he just stepped over him. Everybody thought that he committed like a cardinal sin. Didn't understand that. He was just like trying to not step on the guy. I don't know if they wanted him to step on the guy, but I thought that was weird.
I honestly thought he stared him down. Honestly, I honestly would not have been shocked if he had gotten teed up for that.
Agreed.
In my opinion.
Really? Because I watched like the replay and it looks like he just like he's like looking down. To me, it looks like he's looking down so he doesn't step on the guy's face and then just walks over him.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could be. I've seen similar plays get. I've seen guys get teed up for doing similar things. To me, it felt very like, I don't know, get out of my way, or like, something like that.
And then what was the technical that Coach Johnson got in the first half on? Like, what was the reason for that technical?
Yeah, I don't know. It was just it was kind of like the Chris Collins technical, where it just kind of came at an odd time. Russ sounds like he had some.
Didn't weird. He like come out at the ref basically when the play was going back up the court and the refs were running down? Ben Johnson kind of stepped out almost in the path of the official to argue the call, and that's when the official was like, "Hey, you can't, like, it's a tech because you can't impede my path down the court. Like, you want to argue,
gotcha.
But you can't jump out in my way as I'm coming down the court. Like, I can't worry about running into a coach." So.
Yeah, and that really sparked the Purdue run there in the second half. I felt like, because Purdue, I think we were on 4-0 or a 6-0 run at that point. Mm-hmm. And then obviously, you give them the technical
15-1 or something like that.
We only hit one of two free throws on the technical, but yeah, that was I was really surprised by that. And when I went back and watched it, that was one of the main things I had listed here to check out was that, and it didn't make sense. He was arguing something that happened previously, and I really don't know what it was, to be honest with you, but. I mean, this Minnesota team is scary. I know I said before I was terrified of Cam Christie because I'd seen him play too much. I truly think he will be an NBA player, and I think Robbie Hummel said that about 10 times every time he made a shot, which it seemed like there were about 10 of those. Yeah, I think it was a great rebound for the Boilers to be tested that way. Defensively, I don't think we did a ton terribly wrong. I think they took advantage of the drop coverage early, and we switched that up in the second half and took that away. Again, a fantastic in-game adjustment by a guy who a lot of people seem to think can't make in-game adjustments.
It's because they're dumb.
The last 48 hours. So,
I mean, in-game adjustments is an understatement for Minnesota because, just looking at the box score, you can see in that second half, we outscored them by 16, right? 49-33. So if Cam Christie doesn't hit a few shots at the end of the first half, we're talking about winning this going away by double digits. Like, that was a very, very, very impressive second half by Purdue. like you said, Dawson Garcia went off, but I mean, I guess he was pretty much on the offense, because we dominated the second half.
Yeah, and by went off, he got to the free throw line a lot. So it wasn't like he scored a lot. He made a lot of field goals in the second half, but it just seemed like he was living at the free throw line. Some might say free throw line merchant. It's a term I've heard thrown around a few times this season toward Purdue. I'm learning all sorts of new terms this season for sure.
It's funny though. Just my final thoughts here on the Minnesota game, because after that game, I was like, man, he didn't really have that good of a game. And then I look at this box score, and it was like 19 points, like 11 rebounds, 13 rebounds, whatever it was. I was like, oh, never mind. Like it's just, I can't remember who it was. It might have been one of the radio guys from Purdue, but it was like Edey is National Player of the Year, and is expected to win it again this year. So he's expected to be the very best player on the court every single time. And if he's not that, then it's like, oh, he's having this terrible game. But in reality, he's still dropping, a double-double and just having a crazy game. So,
well, as Painter's talked about, he's gotten to the point where you expect every one of his shots to go in. And so, when he turns around and makes an easy jump hook, you're like, oh, okay, that's what we expect.
Yeah, what his percentage is,
you're like, oh, that's odd.
His percentage is 65, 70% on the season?
I think it's around 67 so far.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But yeah, that is crazy though. I've thought that too. I thought that at when I went to the Purdue Arizona game in December. My father-in-law were like, I think he had like 25, and at the end of the game, we were like, when did he score 25 points?
Right, yeah, same.
All we thought about was the shots that he missed, especially against Arizona's zone. So yeah, it's he's a really good player, and so he's been known to do that.
And then it's like the games where we're like, oh, he had a really good game. It's like, yeah, he dropped like almost 40 points, and
an out of character good game has to be 35 plus.
Well, is it time to move on to the game that followed that game, the one that's drawn quite a bit of negativity,
the stupidity from the fan base? So
I mean, for anyone who doesn't know, Purdue lost at Ohio State 73-69. Wasn't Purdue's best effort offensively. Defensively, I actually felt like Purdue played really well. Ohio State just hit some really tough shots. And then Purdue turned the ball over quite a bit. I think they had 15 turnovers, which led to a lot of easy baskets in transition for Ohio State. They did ask Trey Kaufman-Renn after the game, like, do you all work on your transition defense? And I actually liked his answer a lot, because the reporter was kind of getting like, I don't know, a little bit snarky about it. And he was like, look, we practice it all the time, but you're at a disadvantage when you're chasing people and they get the ball and they're 15 feet ahead of you and you're running as fast as you can. Like you're just at a disadvantage. Like you can only do so much. And, but I mean, I think that when you look at the 3 losses this season, that's been one commonality, is just the inability to take care of the ball. I think Ohio State, I think it was 22 points off of turnovers.
Yeah.
And then really in the first half, I felt like Purdue, did a really good job of playing great defense, and then and then it gave up an offensive rebound for an easy putback. So they weren't rewarding themselves for playing defense, I thought. So Ohio State was, I think, 9 for 16 on shots right at the free throw line, which is just over 50%. I actually tweeted this leading up to that game, and the 10 games prior to that, they were 25% on those shots. So we forced them into some low percentage shots that just happened to go in, reminiscent of last year's IU game at Mackey. It seems to be an implosion from the fan base. People seem to think Painter is inept and certain players shouldn't be on the floor. Fletcher Lawyer shouldn't be on the floor. Ethan Morton shouldn't be on the floor. Caleb First shouldn't be on the floor. Why isn't Colvin playing more? Why isn't Heidi playing more? I don't know. What are y'all's opinions? Let's just dive right in.
I think that we're all just a bunch of butthurt basketball fans that don't know what we're talking about when, it's like we're literally the Nebraska football fans of college basketball. Like that's how we sound. Like Purdue's lost 3 out of 26 games this year, 3. And the 3 that we've lost, those are the things that we talked about in the Ohio State game have been like the common denominator, turnovers, not, things like that. And it's like, those games will happen. It doesn't mean that the team is falling apart. And I get it's just like it's also just a bad time. It's very like tense. I feel like Purdue fans are always very stressed out people, but we get even more stressed when the middle of February hits because everything has to be perfect from then on, or our crystal ball is just going to shatter into a million pieces. So I think I think we all tend to like get as Purdue fans get in this bubble and isolate ourselves and say like this only happens to Purdue. This doesn't happen to other schools, even though Kansas just got blown out by Texas Tech, last week or maybe this week, whatever it was.
I mean, look at Wisconsin. They've lost 5 of 6 now.
Right, but none of our fans are saying like Wisconsin's, this, that, or the other. So yeah, I just think that we get in it. We put ourselves in this bubble and say that nobody else is going through this, and it's just a Purdue and Matt Painter thing.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think that, blowing leads, losing games that you shouldn't is just part of college basketball. And and you're absolutely right that we do get in this bubble and we start to think, hey, this happens to us and only us every year. And you just have to, we just have to look at the bigger picture. I mean, yeah, UConn's on fire right now. Houston's on fire right now.
Except UConn's losing a half.
As I speak, UConn has a double-digit deficit right now. Is that right? 43-29.
Yep.
At halftime. Not saying they won't come back, but it happens. It happens in college basketball. Basketball is a game full of variance, right? Sometimes it swings in your favor, sometimes it doesn't. And it swung in Ohio State's favor that night.
And I will say, sorry, I thought you were
done. No, I didn't really have much else to say other than that.
And I will say that after we've seen I feel like a bigger pool of upsets since the transfer portal and NILs come around. It's the same thing we've seen in the tournament with 1 versus 16s and 2 versus 15s and all that stuff. It's just, I think that the parity or like we've always said in conference season that any given night you can lose. But I think it is even more magnified now. But that's just me.
Yeah, I definitely think one thing to add to that, Chris, is the COVID year as well.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys are, 4th, 5th year seniors now too.
6th, 8th, 9th, whatever.
Yeah. So teams are older, which also helps. But I feel like there's a lot of parity right now, which is honestly what terrifies me about this season's tournament. Like I said, there's been a lot of Colvin should have played more. Morton shouldn't have played. First shouldn't have played, which I think is crazy. It's the second game in a row we saw Zach Edey get into foul trouble, which we were able to weather that. But ultimately, I think the fact that Purdue was down over 11, at one point, and then with a minute to go they were down 2. Is a resilient comeback. There are no moral victories by any means, but it just shows the fight that this team has. We're just hey, welcome in, guys. It just shows
friend of the program.
It just shows what the what the team is capable of. But any agreement or disagreement with the kind of the hot takes that have been thrown around. I mean, how do we feel? Should Ethan Morton not have played? Should Colvin have played more? Should First not have?
I'm going to let the dude who makes $4 million and bases his livelihood off of decision making make those decisions.
The popular opinion is that he doesn't know how to make those decisions, and
it's because those people are stupid.
Let them know. Preach, Chris. Preach.
Okay.
I just think that. Sorry, go ahead.
So I've seen some of the most ignorant, stupid crap since Walters got hired when it comes to ignorant comments, things that don't make sense, and just not knowing ball. At the end of the day, Painter is one of the greatest scheme coaches, play coaches, out of bounds coaches, defense, offense, all of it. Let the dude do his thing. We understand that he's had struggles when it comes to March. But at the end of the day, the players shoot the ball. He doesn't. He just puts them in the best position to be able to do it. But at the end of the day, you sitting on your couch with your stupid bottle of freaking Mountain Dew screaming at the TV doesn't count as knowing what you're talking about. So shut up, let the man do his job and support the team, because these dudes are on Twitter and they see you acting like an ass, and you're burning out players because I know that they see what you're talking about. It's the same thing with every sport, be it club hockey, football, basketball, volleyball, freaking lacrosse. I don't give a damn what it is. Shut your mouth, support the team.
Chris just took y'all to church, and I just want y'all to know that.
You will
I
never
second
convince
all
me
of
that
that.
players don't search their names on Twitter. I guarantee they
1,000%.
do.
They're
yeah.
18 to
Oh, yeah.
22-year-old. Of course
And
I do.
I
and I'm
search
not
my
even-
name on Twitter.
And
Just
Fletcher
to make
Lawyer,
sure.
Fletcher Lawyer, I guarantee searched himself and saw all the why is this guy starting? What's he doing? He shouldn't be on the floor.
And
He's
now
not hitting
with-
shots. He's useless, and that kind of
Well,
stuff. And
I
that's
even
just,
Now with the
remember-
portal, that's even more dangerous with the portal. You know.
Shut up, bitch.
yeah. Then we have a comment from OHIO podcast. Why'd you have to bring Mountain Dew into this? What did hillbilly juice
Hey.
do to you?
Chris is the guy drinking Mountain Dew on his couch.
He's got
Just
Mountain
happened
Dew.
to see it.
Chris is that he just doesn't talk shit on Twitter all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry,
Yeah.
I got a little
Yeah.
heated there. Didn't mean to.
There are
Little
things you
preaching
should.
dog.
There are things you can think, and things you can tweet, and they don't always overlap.
Exactly.
Right.
That's how
Sometimes
it goes.
you have to hit the delete button.
And it's going to be real scary this year. Like if Purdue does not make a Final Four, if Purdue does not win a national championship, because that is everybody's that is their minimum requirement right now. That is like what they are expecting. And if those things don't happen, they're all literally going to lose their mind. They're not going to go anywhere. They're still going to come back next year, but they're going to lose their mind and talk about how this is.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were done.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
I have a little bit of a question for Damon and Russ, being the Cowboys fans of the group. Is it kind of the same mantra and feeling within Cowboys Twitter as it is Purdue Twitter?
No, Cowboys Twitter is they're just all go Cowboys, doesn't matter what. It's the people that aren't Cowboys fans that are like the Purdue fans of saying oh, yep, happens every year.
Okay, so it's
You
kind
know-
of an accepted thing. For
I
lack of
missed
better
a
word.
real opportunity when Chris was going on his
What?
night to say what? What? Oh, I told my Uncle Vernon and my Aunt Marcia, shout out to them for letting me use their garage for the podcast. I said at some point you may just hear what, and don't mind it. It's just me. Okay, it's just me
a
doing my thing. It's just a thing.
Russ, what's your take on all the drama that's going on right now in the Purdue Twitter sphere?
Well, it's funny that Damon compared us to Nebraska because we do sound like Nebraska football fans. But the crazy thing is Nebraska was 5-7 this year, and they haven't done crap in football lately. And we're third ranked in the country at 23-3. And you're looking at Ken Palm or the AP Top 25 and going, hey, that team that's third, that's way up there doing really great. They have some of the most negative fans right now, and that's nuts. You have the right to freedom of speech. You have the right to opinion as a fan, especially when you pay your hard-earned money to go watch the game. But this is far beyond that. The arguments that people are making on why Colvin isn't playing, but how Braden and Fletch got to play as a freshman last year. I'm not even going to go into that argument, but it's ridiculous. You're making yourself look like idiots. Just get off the bandwagon. That's what's kind of nice about Purdue or Cowboys Twitter. Like Damon said, they just disappear. You don't see negative Cowboys fans. They just disappear. You might see one or two saying Dak is trash or whatever, but Purdue fans are kind of bad, and they expose all this stuff, and they'll tag incoming recruits and go, I hope this guy goes somewhere else. I hope this guy. It's are you serious right now? You're this is ridiculous. Just go root for another team then. This is, I don't get it.
I was going to talk trash on the Cowboys, but I'm in a house that is owned by a Cowboys fan, so I'm not going to do that. Never mind. He'll kick me out.
No balls.
We have a great
wow.
comment here from
Sonny.
our pal Sonny from the Line Night Cast. Purdue and Illinois Twitter is unbearable when we lose. 75% of our fans lose any semblance of common sense. Amen.
100%.
Amen.
100%.
Shout out to Sonny.
I have seen that with my own eyes, Sonny. The Illinois fan base and the breakdowns, and it is very comparable.
And it's we're not saying don't lose your mind and have these feelings and say these things. Just do it in the privacy of your group chat where you can sound like an idiot and then they'll all yell at you for it.
Yeah.
And you'll have to talk to your therapist about it. And
Yeah.
I mean, anyway, I'm just kidding. But No, like just do it. Like just have that conversation somewhere else. Talk to a friend, talk to somebody, but like it doesn't have to go on social media.
Yeah.
I can't imagine Ohio State football Twitter. That has to be the
Oh,
worst.
God,
I
yeah.
live amongst these, and not all of them. Eric and Aaron and Chris are all great. And JR, love it, JR. But God, a lot of them are just dumb. Dumber than a box of rocks. All right.
And I will say this, I think that the huge problem is that I also see an incredible amount of wildly racist shit sometimes.
Oh,
I
yeah.
shared a screenshot of this dude saying that Painter was a racist. What?
I saw that. Yeah.
Oh, just because Colvin wasn't playing?
Yeah, I think it was Colvin. But like,
That's crazy.
yeah, it was just like, oh, it was because Fletch was in over Colvin, I think is what the gist of the Twitter was. I'm like, are you
It's like the
effing
dumbest
kidding
of the
me?
dumb.
Like,
That guy should donate his Purdue gear to Goodwill and just
Yeah.
go away.
yeah, he should donate something, but
As Russ said, the worst take that I saw was literally someone tagging a recruit and saying he's probably watching this and is understanding that he made a terrible decision and is probably going to go somewhere else. I'm like, that's
Because that recruit's also probably never lost a game they shouldn't have either.
but those are those same shitbags that will cheer through the roof the minute Purdue wins a national title.
What?
Yeah, and to talk about the
I didn't even
Final
know
Four.
Maryland Twitter was a thing.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
And they still talk about us, dude.
Oh,
Let me
yeah.
tell you, they still
Yeah.
talk about us.
Rent
The-
free, baby.
The more you think about the tournament, the more you realize it is just a crapshoot. And I don't think a non-Final Four year is a failure by any means. Like to sit there and look at one of the most successful programs in Big Ten history and say just because we haven't, I mean, yeah, I think we got to be taken seriously nationally. We do have to make a Final Four eventually, I think, and maybe even start to rack them up and get a national title. But you look at last year, and the highest seed to make the Final Four was a 4 seed. Right. And then 2 5 seeds and a 9 seed. So literally you take the top 12 teams last year, the teams that had the 12 best seasons last year, none of them played in the Final Four. The year before that, only one seed made it in the Final Four. So it's like, it's just because you had a great season and you're one of the best teams doesn't even mean you make the Final Four, because there's so many talented teams out there. Like you look at Ohio State, right? They have a lot of talent on their team. Like I did that exercise on Twitter where I ranked the recruit ratings of the starting 5 of every team in the Big Ten. IU was number 1, Ohio State was number 2. That's the reason to their fan base. Those fan bases are kind of fed up with their coach because they have the talent. But because they have the talent, they can have a night like they had against Purdue. And if Ohio State can do it and they're not even a tournament team, any team that can make the tournament, that makes the tournament, can have a night like that. And that's why it's so hard to make the Final Four, even if you are a 1 seed or a
You
2
have
seed
to
or a
get
3 seed.
lucky 6 times.
It's like playing the World
I would
Series of
say
poker, right?
4.
It's like going to
4
Vegas and you could be the best poker player in the
Well, to
world.
win a national title.
But when you play the World Series of Poker with that many people involved, you have to win like 2 or 3 situations where you have like a 10% chance of winning to win that event, right? And the March Madness is not too much different from that. Like you've got to have luck on your side. You've got to have no letdowns. You've got to hope, like, and not just luck on your part, but you have to hope the other team doesn't get hot. So,
Yeah, I think that the big dance is a charade. It's a charade that I really want to see Purdue win, but like it's just a silly game at the end of the day. I mean, like, do I want to win one? Absolutely, but like it doesn't determine who the best team is. I mean, the best team doesn't always win the game, let alone the tournament. You know,
If they wanted to this year, they could just do the top 4 teams in the country. You know, just do 2 semifinals and a final, and do a little CFP.
yeah, do it that
for
way.
basketball. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Guaranteed Final Four.
Well, on that note, UConn is now officially the overall number 1 seed. There's been a lot of talk, and Russ, I'm sure you'll have something to say about this, and that it seems to be that, and this is from like talking heads and commentators and whatnot, that the games that matter are these down the stretch games, and they matter more than December games and November games. And if that's the case, we need to completely rethink how we're doing scheduling.
Yeah.
You need to schedule cupcakes. All your non-cons need to be cupcakes, and you just need to make sure that you're hot come February. But like this whole notion that like, well, yeah, Purdue beat Arizona, but that was in December. Purdue beat Gonzaga, Tennessee, and Marquette, but that was in November. Like I mean, and that's literally what people who I respect are starting to say these types of things. I don't know. Like I just like, and I'm not discrediting UConn. I'm not saying that like Purdue hasn't been struggling a little bit lately, but I just think like what the whole reason you schedule those games is to boost your resume. And now you have people saying like, well, those games shouldn't matter as much because they happened at a different time. Like, I understand the argument that like it's not who you play, it's when you play them. Like there's a degree of truth to that. But I just think that like to discredit, Purdue has the number one strength of schedule by most metrics. KenPom, net, SOS. I mean, all these different metrics have Purdue as having the hardest schedule in D1. UConn, like depending on how you measure it, is between like 50 and 70. I mean, a lot of that is a really weak Big East right now. They have a lot of they're the bottom tier teams weighing them down, DePaul in particular, and like that's not their fault. But in the last month, they have 4 wins over teams who are 200 plus in KenPom. So,
and my opinion is this: while no, it is not their fault. We should be rewarded that fact that we're handling teams that are way above what UConn is doing.
And like ultimately, I don't care. I don't care about the number one overall seed. And if UConn gets it, so be it. But I think the reasoning is really dumb. Like I think the reasoning is really silly to say that like, well, they're playing good down the stretch, and the fact that they played like 5 KenPom 300 plus teams in their non-con, and like they played Indiana on a neutral court. I don't think anyone thought Indiana was going to have the season they had. They did lose to Kansas, who's struggling now. I mean, they just you schedule who you schedule, but I just think that this notion that like, well, like they had some early losses, but like they're cooking now, and then you can say like, well, Purdue played Arizona in December, and like now they're looking a little shaky, so let's just discredit all of that. I just feel like it's I don't know. I just feel like it's just an odd way of thinking. Interesting comment here.
I will say that the committee for college basketball is much different than college football. So I'll put Purdue's fans' minds at ease there a little bit, because I know the controversy around the playoff this year and how the committee, left out Florida State after ESPN went on and on about how they should be left out of the playoff. And it's like they listened to ESPN and left them out of the playoff. Well, the college basketball committee, specifically the March Madness committee, has shown in the past that they don't care about AP poll. They don't care about really public perception, because they've left teams that are ranked in the top 25 out of the tournament before, because they realize the AP is just a ranking of who's lost most recently and who's got the biggest winning streak. Like they understand that. So go ahead, Chris. What?
So Frank, I had a question. Hold on. Do you think that the tournament, or this is what my question was. Holy crap, my brain's melted. Does the committee drop their top 16 every week, like the college football playoff committee did? Or is it just one time, like right now, and then we don't hear from them again until March?
In the past, they've been like sporadic. Like not on like any cadence, but I don't know if that changes this year or not. There's a comment.
I would disagree with that. 100%.
My bet is Purdue comes in as the third number one seed.
Well, currently right now, Creighton is up 17 on UConn.
I'll also say this too. If you're thinking the big picture and late in the season, the teams that were in the biggest competition with us for 1 seed right now are UConn, Houston, Arizona. None of them are going to Detroit. None of them. Yeah. Even if they're ahead of us, so we could be the 4th 1 seed. And then you're talking about, like, I don't think North Carolina can jump us unless we have a terrible collapse, knock on wood. Tennessee we beat. Marquette we beat head-to-head. Kansas they're floundering now. So, like, I don't think we're in trouble of missing out on Detroit, which is where we want to be. So I think as long as we take care of business, it's fine. Like, I don't care if UConn's the number 1 overall seed. Who really gives a crap? We'll get
There's
Detroit,
no one close to There's no one close enough to us that is going to take the number 1 seed that will take the opportunity to be in Indy.
Right, right. And the ones in our region that could possibly get close to there, like a Tennessee or Marquette, we have the head-to-head. So we'd have to drop a lot of games. Like we'd almost have to like have a Wisconsin like collapse.
I don't
get
think
there.
Arizona or Tennessee are going to be in our. Maybe Tennessee will be in our bracket, but I don't know how that game ended with Missouri. But
Yeah, I mean, so Chris is addressing a comment here where the Nick Burris said Arizona and Tennessee are the only teams that scare me. Honestly, the team that I don't want to face, and thankfully they'll probably be a number 1 seed, is Houston. I
want to run those losers out of a gym. Like I hope we see them in the Final
their
Four.
ball pressure and their post trapping and their 3-quarter denial in the post. I mean, they are elite athletes. Now, on the flip side, they can't score.
Hey, we got a guest in the house. We got Uncle Vern.
What's up, Uncle Vern?
The legend.
How we doing?
Hey, doing good.
Now you can
Awesome.
now you can tell people you've been on a podcast.
That's right.
And I even said I was going to
That's
talk
right.
shit about the Cowboys, but I didn't because I was at your house.
No.
So
Yeah.
Russ and Damon are Cowboys.
And
Is
I've
he
been putting
the
in
retired?
I did say I'd go in the garage so I don't bug them.
Yeah.
Nice meeting you. Take care, guys.
Yeah, you too.
Damn,
See ya. That was
The
awesome.
man, the myth, the legend. Let me tell you.
That's right.
Well, and so a question for you guys. How does Purdue right the ship going forward? And like not that the ship's even like taking on water, honestly. But I mean the entire world and this Purdue sphere that we're in seems to think that that's the case, and this happens every season, and Painter doesn't know what he's doing and whatnot. But what needs to happen to just clean things up? Is it turnovers? Is it some lineup changes? I'll throw out one thing. I think Fletcher's developed a little bit of a hesitancy to shoot, and I think that when you look at like the Haas era, like what made Haas so good was the fact that he had like 3 or 4 40% shooters around him. So I'll start there, but what else needs to happen?
So what they say, it was of our 3 losses, 2 of them were 14 turnovers. The third was 17 turnovers. Taking care of the ball is number 1. And to kind of bounce off Nick Burris's comment, speaking objectively, we need to find an answer when Lawyer isn't producing. That's where we need to use Mason Gillis because he's shooting like 50% from 3. And I think that rotating him in the 3 and moving Jones to the 2 and adjusting from there, I think kind of takes care of that. But ultimately, we did, like against Ohio State, we made them do what we wanted them to do, was take those mid-range. Frank, you're going to have to correct my numbers on this one because I'm going to screw it up. But you said they normally shoot 25% from mid-range. They shot 53% from mid-range?
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
And you said a mid-range shot was 0.5 points per possession?
So on the season, so if to apply some numbers, they were roughly 25% on mid-range shots. So every shot can yield on average a half a point, basically. So a quarter of a point for every 2-point attempt. Yeah, and so they scored 18 points off of those shots.
So I
they
think
should have scored 9.
So if they hold their season average, then if we don't have a problem, we probably run away with that by 8 to 12 points.
And
So
they
I
call
think
half those slapaways that were fouls on Zed Key.
Yeah. So I
Were
think
they though?
some of them were. I truly do. Some of the replays I've seen, I've never watched a college basketball game with that many slapaways and it not be called a foul.
Coaches literally teach not to slap down at the ball because it gets called a foul so often.
Mhm.
And if you watch Zach Edey's body language, there were certain plays where he was like frustrated with himself, and then certain plays he looked at the official like, "Come on, man, like that was a
what
foul."
is going on?
Well,
So-
so a lot of the angles were hard to see because I did go back and look, but one thing I saw that they did do, and actually Painter talked about this, made me feel good about myself, made me feel like I was seeing the right things, is that they were scooting away from him in the post, and so as someone who's never posted up in their life, I can understand that like if you have your back to the basket, in order to know where your defender is, you have to feel him. You have to be able to lean into him. And they were purposely getting space between themselves and Zach. And I think that caused some issues there with them, and that allowed them the room to get their hands in there, because it's really hard to do when you're up in somebody to smack that ball away, and it's especially hard to do without fouling. I think that that's something I expect can be fixed very, very easily.
Yeah.
I just felt like he tried to force some things, and we only shot 4 threes. We only attempted 4 threes in that game.
Mhm.
Did
And
we
I think
really?
that's where, yeah, I think so.
Wow.
I think that's where Fletcher, in his ability. I mean, we've seen Fletcher go off for 27 multiple times. No, I'm sorry, we shot 9 threes, or 3 for 9. What was I thinking? 3 for 9, but
Math's hard.
yeah. So, but I think that's one thing I would like to see change. It seems that Fletcher's popping out to the perimeter and kind of that Spain pick and roll, which seems to be Purdue's favorite play right now. He gets the ball, he kind of just like thinks about it and then passes it. And Gillis and Lance Jones, like they're welcoming that shot. I'd like to see him get back to that point. It wouldn't surprise me against Rutgers to see Painter run something for him early to get him a shot. So that's the biggest thing I'd like to see. Damon, what do you think?
Yeah, I think for as far as like what needs to change, I think everybody needs to pump the brakes, and I think you can do this because this team this year is basically last year's team. Just add in Lance Jones, and this team has vastly improved in many areas. Their 3-point percentage, their offensive and defensive ratings in King Palm are extremely better. I mean, offense is pretty well. It's very it's probably pretty similar from last year, but defense, they've just improved astronomically. And I think in any sport, but like college basketball in particular, for me, I feel like nobody looks at the big picture. It's very just based off of momentum. So it's like, okay, what happened this week? We're going to judge the entire season off of what happened just this week. So if this team lost, if this team won, they're now the best team in the country. They're so hot, nobody can stop them. But as soon as they lose next week, it's like, we're going to steal the field of 68 tonight. Is UConn in trouble? Question mark, question mark. Oh my God, everybody tune in. And, because they know people will bite on that crap and see it and be like, oh man, these guys are analysts. These guys, do this for a living, so they must be right. And it's like, no, dude, they're literally just trying to get you to click on this video. Not that they don't know what they're talking about, but I just feel like everybody just needs to calm down and if you want to compare this team from this point this year to last year's team, and it's vastly different, but I think in so many good ways. And I think that, that's what I think. So everybody just chill the hell out.
I did see a tweet that said something to the effect that, this is a paraphrase, but it said, if you take away the 2 Indiana games and the Michigan game, Purdue hasn't looked great in 2024.
I
And
will
I'm
say
well,
this,
that's
and I'm
Illinois?
going to edit it for our listeners, that if I didn't weigh 270 pounds, I would be a thin man.
yeah.
If wishes were fishes, we'd all have a fry.
Wait,
Just
what's your aunt and uncle thing you say all the time?
If my
Oh, wait.
aunt had she'd be my uncle.
As soon as I
And
said
it's
that,
like,
I was
that's just
oh,
like the
maybe we
people
should.
that go like, oh, if Purdue didn't have Lance, or if Purdue didn't have Braden Smith and Zach Edey, they wouldn't be as good. It's like, yeah, no duh. What team
Jordan
would be?
wouldn't have. If Jordan wasn't in the Bulls, they wouldn't have won 6 titles.
I would dare say the Nuggets would not have won without Jokic last season.
100%.
I mean, I can, and like,
Hey,
mean,
would the Cavs ever win a finals without LeBron? No.
yeah, but I want to address this comment. That's why I listen to you guys for stats and opinion, because I'm so tired of hearing Andy Katz bash us.
See, Frank,
is-
people do want you to do your stats and your
Yeah,
opinions.
Frank.
Which
I
is
appreciate
crazy because like Andy Katz is like a bipolar Jerry Palm. Like he is super on our jock and then like super not and then super there. super. The super not where Jerry Palm's like good. Whoop, good.
Don't you have a beeper, Chris?
Oh,
You know, you know who else was like that way back when they were doing commentary was Dockich. It seemed like every year.
We don't say that name around here.
Like there were some
Bleep it
years
out,
where he
bleep
was
it out.
so pro Purdue, where he just like talked about Purdue, praised Purdue. Next season he was anti Purdue. Is like, make up your mind.
Wasn't he
man.
talking like smack about Raphael Davis recently or something?
Oh, him and
Because he's a
Raphael, they were at
stupid-
war. They were at
didn't,
war,
uh,
and Raphael won by a mile.
Raphael.
Yeah.
You
The
know,
Ninja Turtle
Raphael?
ones.
And didn't
Is he a
get
Ninja Turtle
Raphael
now?
Davis coffee? Didn't they like actually make? Right.
I'm not.
Oh,
I'm
no,
not
they
aware of
printed
any
his-
of this. This is all
they-
news to me.
They printed I got Dockich went to a coffee shop and they printed his photo on the top of a coffee foam. I don't know how they do that technology, but yeah.
Russ, have we heard from you in terms of what you think needs to change?
Do we want to?
Like what you'd like to see change to see this team improve a little bit more for March?
I mean, I'm with Chris. I don't think anything needs to change, and if it does, Painter will change it. I the one thing I think was cool, and I think it works out well, and I feel like I've seen it more over the last few games, is First and Edie playing together. I think they play really well together, but the problem is we have 4 really good bigs. Like obviously we have the best guy in the country, but then First, Gillis, and TKR are all 3 very elite bigs, and so you've got to find some way to get them minutes, and you can only give them time on the court with each other so many minutes a game, with Edie playing 30 to 35 minutes a game. So I wish we could see that more, but other than that, I trust in Painter. I mean, he's going to put people in the position like, I do think it's crazy. You alluded to it earlier, and I want to mention this, that we were perfect from the free throw line against Ohio State. And in the last 6 times that Purdue has been perfect from the free throw line, we're 1-5.
Yeah,
So
I saw that stat.
Crazy. So shout out Cobra Stats for that one. But yeah, no, I mean, we're on the road against a very talented team. They just lost their coach, so we don't really know what to expect. And it was a little hard to anticipate. And we dropped the game. We dropped 3 games this year. When you look at the standings, Arizona's like right behind us, 4th, and they've lost 2 more games than us. You see teams in the top 10 that have lost 7 games, 8 games, whatever. We're at 3 losses, and people are panicking. It's ridiculous.
What I think happened is what I said last week would happen is that somebody from Ohio State saw our podcast. They saw Russ talking about how we were going to mop the floor, and they billboarded it everywhere. I mean, I'm sure.
100%.
Way to go, Russ.
No, I'm just kidding. But
It's the Geritol kicking in. He talks like an ass.
it's always
Gets a little wild.
it's the interim coach mojo magic that happens.
Dude,
I mean,
it
happens
always
to everybody.
happens all the time. I will say this, that the Purdue fan base on Twitter better love this time that Matt Painter is here, because I am very worried after he retires that we will sink like a rock. So
PJ or Ethan Morton pick it up.
Yeah.
I think there's a good possibility PJ leaves this year to go be like an assistant coach somewhere else and builds that resume to get hired when Painter's ready to retire.
Speaking of assistant coaches, it's still so weird to me to see Coach Owens on the Ohio State sidelines.
Yeah,
So
it's
weird.
very odd. I thought the same thing, and I somehow forgot he was, and then I saw him. I was like, wait.
Yeah, I forgot that too. I was like, wait, you're on the wrong sideline, you traitor.
buddy, you're lost. What are you
Yeah,
doing? You're wearing the wrong
Benedict
shirt.
Arnold, mother.
Also, speaking of coaches and the Ohio State coaches and interim magic, did it not look to you guys like at times their coach was like he'd clap his hands and put his hands on his knees and lean in like, let's see what happens this possession.
Yeah,
like
he was totally unsure of himself.
He wasn't
He was
shouting
very
out
nervous.
calls. He wasn't saying run this play. He was just like, let's see what
He's
I
happens.
like,
hope I faked this enough.
he
Fake it till
he
you
looked
make
like he looked like he was hoping.
Yeah.
Like that's
It was like whenever you take like a 1-star team in like NCAA college basketball 10 and you put them up against like the number 1 team in the country. Not saying that is what Ohio State is at all, but it's like just like you playing the video game. You're like, all right, let's see if we can do this.
It was just a video game for him.
Good
That's
luck,
all.
fam.
so Thursday, real quick. Rutgers again.
A
Terrified.
little nervous about it.
Terrified.
Little-
But I think
I'd
right
be
now
more terrified if we were on the road.
which we've
Oh, yeah.
already beaten Rutgers on the road.
Yes.
Big Cliff, he just recently had a game against Wisconsin where he had 8 blocks, which is crazy. I don't think he needs an introduction. I think he's a guy Purdue fans are pretty familiar
Who?
with at this point.
Who's that?
Cliff
I'm-
Amore.
Cliff who?
Yeah,
I'm
big
kidding.
dude, 6'11" guy who's extremely athletic for Rutgers. But they've actually moved up to the number 2 ranked defense and no, I'm sorry, they're number 16. Who's number 2?
What the methamphetamine are you talking?
I don't know. I'm sorry. I look at numbers all the time, so I apologize for that.
It's a little wild and crazy tonight, boys.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm in vacation.
No, they are
mode.
number 2. I was on the wrong year. Sorry, they're number 2 in defense. Number 2 in defense.
Mhm.
So I think my question to you all is: does Purdue has something to prove right now in this game?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
Eyes.
Yeah, but
I feel
it's
like
annoying.
eyes are on us. Go ahead, Damon.
No, I was just saying, but I think it's annoying for the team that to prove it to everybody, they're going to have to beat Rutgers by like 20 to 30 for everybody to be like, oh, yep, Purdue's back to normal now, because that for some reason is the threshold for everybody to be calm about Purdue is they have to blow the team out by 20 plus for everything to be okay. If not, then it's all for nothing.
I mean, and this is also the fan base though that gets mad when you only beat the Jacksonville Dolphins by 35. You should have won by 50. And Painters even talked about that. Like you're in a good place when your fans are mad because of how much you won by. But I unfortunately think you're right. I think that a 7-point win that doesn't calm anyone down. I think a 2-point win, it has people panicking even more.
And I think the unfortunate part about both of those things is that people are just dumb and don't pay attention to the analytics or the defensive efficiency numbers of things. So, like, we could go in and beat them by 10 and be like, oh, we should have beat them by 25. Well, they're the number 2 ranked defense in the country. So,
well, do we want to know what Ken Palm predicts for this?
I'm going to say 5.
You said 7 points earlier, so I feel like it's a 7-point win.
No, I just pulled that out of thin air. I didn't know what
Okay.
Ken Palm's prediction was until this very moment.
I'm going to say 5.
6.
5, 6. Russ,
I'm gonna say 4.
92.
It could be like 72-68 or something.
17.
What?
Yes. So
I will say Rutgers is 2-5 on the road in the Big Ten this year. 2-5.
Well-
They lost at Iowa.
They've gotten that Williams guy now.
yeah. And so while Rutgers is the number 2 defense in the country, they are
Like
275th in offense. So I think that the Ken Palm prediction is heavily based on the fact that they have struggled to score. So their overall offensive rating
They're
on
what?
the season. What?
236?
Yeah. So their overall offense this season, their offensive rating is 98, which means they average 0.98 points per possession. So for context, Purdue is like 1.25, and that's a huge gap. That's a huge gap. But so I mean, effective field goal percentage 43.7. That's in the second percentile.
Chris is bamboozled.
I am befuddled.
They shoot 29% from 3, so naturally expect them to come in and shoot 50 at Mackey.
Yeah,
That's the way to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's
they
gonna be a
live
guy
on the
that's-
defensive end. They live on the defensive end. So
They're going to
that's-
have a manager shoot 75% from 3.
but they are they're 39% from the field as a whole this season, which is in the third percentile. But as Damon's right, they do have a player back from injury who's actually been playing pretty well. I apologize, I can't. What's his name, Damon?
Something Williams. I don't.
Jeremiah
remember his-
Williams. He has not
Yes.
played all season.
So
You
he
could have said
has
Jeremiah
played-
anything, and I'd been like, "Yep, that's
Yeah,
his name."
sure.
Yeah, so he's a transfer from Temple. And in the last games, so his first game, he had 10, then 14, 18, 15, and the most recent loss to Minnesota, he had 9. All those games were wins except for one. So
what is
Interesting.
there a way to look at what their offensive efficiency has been since he's been back? Like what they would rank in the last 4 or 5 games with him
Well,
on the
if you
court?
check
let's see if that's,
cbbanalytics.com.
let's see if he qualifies
Brought to
for
you by
some
Frank.
on-off numbers. So
Okay.
looking at their offensive rating when he is not playing this season, and again, they even caveat this with he hasn't played a ton of minutes, so don't give a lot of merit to this. Like they even say
Okay.
that. So without him, they average 0.96 points per possession, which is bad. That's a bad number.
It's not good.
With him on the court, they average almost 1.1 points per possession. So
It's still
pretty
not
big jump.
great. That's still like
I mean,
average.
so average right now in D1 is like 106, so above
A
average.
little bit
offensively,
above
when they're
average?
far below average offensively
Well,
on
yeah,
the
yeah,
season.
yeah.
So
Dude,
3-point
that-
percentage. So they shoot worse with him on the floor, even though their offense is better.
That
They just shoot
offensive
worse from three.
efficiency is going to befuddle me for days,
Yeah. So
pretty much until game time.
so the predicted score of this game
87
77-60. 77-60. So
I'm going 87-70.
So you think that we don't perform as well defensively as we should?
I think that we do through most of the game until we throw in like walk-ons and guys like that. I
So
think it's like a 20-25 point game a majority of the game. And then
Like the last 3 minutes.
yeah, the last 3 to 5 minutes it ruins our defensive efficiency for the game because we let
Yeah, my prediction is that we cover. My prediction is that we're gonna see. So if you recall from last season, we haven't seen it a ton this season because we haven't had a ton of losses. But you guys remember post loss Braden, like first game after the loss, that was a thing. Yeah, but if you go watch the interview with Edie if you have it, and not you all, just anyone who's
after the
listening.
game.
After the game, he seems like he is ready to explode. Like so they said, like, what did they do to defend you? Next question. Like, just like didn't even want to talk about it. And then the reporter even doubled down. She was like, I know, like, I respect that you said you don't want to talk about it, but was there something there something that that they did differently? Next question. Like, he was just like, I'm done. I'm not. So I think
Love to see
I think
That's
that
kinda
Edie
weird.
comes in.
Love it.
I mean, he didn't ultimately he didn't want to say they were fouling him. I think that Painter's kind of coached the guys on what to say. I don't think he wanted to blame. He even said something like, referees miss calls and we miss shots. So like at the end of the day, we're all just trying our best or something like that. But he was very, very angry, and an angry Edie is scary. So
I will say,
love-
what are we averaging at home? Like 87 points a game?
something like that. It's a lot.
Yeah. So with that, that's why I think we're going to, and it could be, honestly, it could be 87-60. Who knows? It depends on how pissed off Purdue is at the end of the day. Like, I truly think that you're going to just see a lot of angry humans who want to do a lot of harmful things to individuals.
And that gets you put on a list. All right. Next.
I said harmful, not sexual, you weirdo.
Oh, there you go. Okay. All right.
Russ, what are your thoughts? What
Uh,
happens here?
Well, so to go back to the fan base thing, I don't think that there's a amount that we could win by that will make the fans that are upset and want to fire Painter right now happy. Like they'll find an excuse if we win by 20, if we win by 15, if we win by 30, it's gonna be like, well, yeah, but it's Rutgers. It doesn't mean anything. So I think this win in this game just means more for the players and that they get back in the win column. Like even if it's an 8-point win, 7-point win, which I think it could be. I think Rutgers will play better than they've played on the season offensively. So I wouldn't be surprised to see like a 75-68 kind of a game. Where
Okay.
it I don't know that it's necessarily in doubt that they're going to be within a possession late or anything like that. It's just not going to be a game where it looks like we're blowing them out, I don't think.
And
That's just
I'm
me.
going to, bouncing off that comment before anybody else starts, that I don't give a what Purdue Twitter says. I want what's best for this team to get their minds right.
but
If it's
with
a
that,
2-point win or a 200-point win, I don't give a damn.
Or
so
it also could be, and as Cody said here, Mike Tyson mood, right? They could win by a damn billion. Nailed it.
Listen,
So he could also come out aggressively and get in foul trouble.
That's exactly
listen, I broke my back. Listen,
that's exactly what I was gonna say. Is like now I'm just imagining Edie answering that question. Like next question.
My back is broken.
My
they
hand
got
hurts.
me on that Zoloft, but I'm on that to keep me from killing y'all. Yeah. Mike Tyson has some of the best quotes of all time.
We need
Hey,
Frank,
the one press
impersonations.
conference.
Oh, when he's sitting there with a rat piece of like you, and you know.
No.
I normally don't do interviews with women unless I fornicate with them. That's the best.
All right, now that gets us kicked off of
And
YouTube
I'm
too.
done.
All right.
All right, it's about time to be
Hey,
done.
no, the video of Mike Tyson actually saying that is on YouTube. Not
Oh, I'm
me.
sure of it.
Yeah,
Or
me
the video of
imitating
him falling
it,
off the hoverboard is one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's
No, I'm thinking.
he
of
actually said that. He said that to somebody.
Yeah.
Oh,
That
those are
interview-
He was
really-
interviewing
yeah.
him. Yeah.
Yeah, the interview we had on TV, we're like promoting a fight where the guy's like, "Is it more nerve wracking for you to do an interview like this, or to go fight a fight?" And he's like, "Well, it's more nerve wracking to sit here with a rat piece like you know." Yeah, no, and he just starts cussing the dude out. And it's like, all right, the guy
So-
just goes,
Guys, look
"Okay,
what
we're
I
gonna go to
do."
break."
On that note, Dylan, what news do you have from the hockey boys?
I have many news.
Many news,
news.
much
from-
newses.
Much newses from the hockey boys. ICHC hockey champions won the whole damn thing.
What I'm going to call that is a tip to the hat.
Tip to the cap. They beat UC and Miami of Ohio to take it. They were the number 1 seed. And now I think they start nationals. I don't quite know how that works yet. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. So no, the boys are out there killing it. Won it for the 3rd straight year. Around
Sick.
here we call that a 3-peat.
A dynasty, if you
A
will.
dynasty. It's the gold jerseys. They're good luck. Speaking of the gold jerseys, I didn't pack mine when I flew down here to Florida. However, they're on sale, and you can buy your own, and you can put your name on it. You could put one of their names on it. You could put my name on it. You could put whatever you want.
I
I
need
don't
to
care.
snag one of them.
You do. You're damn right you do. You can put any number, 69. Doesn't matter. Whatever number you want, and a double digit within reason. So yeah, go out, buy those. It's on the website. I've tweeted it. The hockey team has posted it many, many times. If you need the link, DM me, and I'll send it to you. I want to help the boys sell as many jerseys as I can. And then my last thing for tonight, yes, Uncle Vernon and I are blood related. We look just alike. It's obvious. I don't know.
I noticed it right from the
Yeah,
get-go.
I mean, we're blood related, guys. I don't know why I keep having to say that. I introduce him as my uncle, and people are like, wait a minute. What? Yeah, we're blood related.
Math's hard. It's okay.
Yeah, it's tough, But yeah, those are my 2 things tonight. The hockey boys absolutely killing it. We have a great hockey program here at Purdue, so make sure you check them out. And the Exponent did a little article about how much travel the hockey team, the ice skating team, anything that has to do with ice, how far Purdue students in
skating?
general have to travel.
Yeah, there's a figure skating.
Yeah. How far they got to travel to find a sheet of ice. They got to go all the way to Indianapolis. And I think it's important that the people at Purdue, the power at B, should look into building an ice rink at some point, and build upon that. And maybe one day we'll have a D1 hockey club. And just imagine the environment. You got Mackey. Imagine what a Purdue hockey environment would be on campus. Just think about it. Just let that settle.
Imagine the minds melting of the people, because I was about to say, "Oh, imagine a hockey game at Ross A," but then I stopped myself because I imagine all the people yelling at me for ruining the turf, because that's a big deal here at Purdue.
Even though it wouldn't, but
Yeah, don't they? They have a whole system. They know what they're doing over there at Purdue
We have
Turf, Purdue
it's a
Grass.
major like field and turf management. Like they
I
need to
will
practice.
say-
System.
So the other obstacle for that is because of Title IX, we have to make another women's sport D1 as well. So that's why we don't have we have a club
Women's
soccer
hockey.
team, club hockey, that kind of thing. Like we have to.
No,
not just put it-
we can make a club rugby team. There's
it's for sure
32
easy
of them.
for a stooge like me to be on here and be like, Purdue needs to build a hockey rink. I know there's a bunch of hoops you got to jump through and a ton of money. I'm just starting the conversation. I know it takes a lot of
women's hockey, exactly.
Yeah, just do ladies hockey, man. Like, what do we like? I think it would be
Oh
great
no,
for
we need a
Purdue.
Purdue roller derby team.
I've watched roller derby in person, and those chicks are
Those
I had
crazy.
I had a professor at Purdue who was she participated in roller derby,
It's
I'm
crazy.
not surprised.
Which is very interesting. She came in one day and like with rollerblades on and like all over her gear. And
Did she hit you?
Yeah.
Did she give you an elbow?
no.
Drop kick
I
her
don't
off
know
the
why I
stairs.
just thought about that.
We are spiraling out of control, boys. We are
Yeah,
off
What
we
else
rails.
is
definitely
Yeah,
have
so
to end
as
this.
it currently
Never.
stands, by the time anyone who's listening to this on audio, they'll probably know the outcome. UConn is down 17 to Creighton with 8 minutes to go. So
Go
again,
Creighton.
down the stretch, that's all that matters.
What's Creighton?
It
The
looks
Blue
like
Jays?
UConn's plummeting. So yeah.
Clearly, that their coach needs to be fired. He couldn't hold up to the pressure of winning the national championship
Stupid.
last year.
Well, I mean, and they're a team who missed quite a few tournaments and then had back-to-back first-round losses. So
Probably
anything
time
can
for him to be
happen.
gone. Yeah,
Yeah,
probably time for him to be done.
Guys, is it
show
still
card
snow?
is what they always do.
Is there still snow up there?
No, it's all melted.
Oh,
No,
we
there's
can't
It's warm
really-
now.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like 69 degrees tomorrow.
Nice.
Dylan's in
Nice.
Florida. He's trying to rub it in. So
Well, it's also like so people here in Florida are walking around in coats and jeans, and
What?
I'm like a Midwestern. Even my uncle's like, "What are you wearing?" And I'm like, "Dog, I'm in short sleeves and shorts."
I can
I
remember
was
being
in
in
shorts
formation
and a cutoff today.
in Shoreline Palms, California, when I was in the Marine Corps. I remember being in formation when it's like 56 degrees, and I'm in like we're civvy formation, so I'm in like shorts and a t-shirt, and everybody else is in long sleeve coats and jackets. They're like, "Johnson, where are you from?" Indiana. Yeah, that adds up. Okay.
Hey, thank you for your service, Russ.
Thank you for the
Thank
service.
You too, Chris.
with that, Damon, why don't you sign us off, man? Just like
Yes.
old
All
times.
right.
Somebody who
All
knows
right.
what they're doing.
Please
Yeah,
Jesus.
it's been a while, so I gotta
get back in that
brush off the old
saddle.
cobwebs there. All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in to the Boiler Express podcast. As always, make sure you check out all of our sponsors. You got Martin Vintage. You can use code BXP at checkout for 10% off. You can use College Basketball Analytics, which is the main
What?
source of our data and analytics that we use for the podcast here. And also our very first sponsor, Cincy Blitz
What?
Sports. Great
What?
game that you can play with your family, your friends. And yeah, so we are, we're, I'm not sure why you're still watching, but we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Boiler up.